Well, good afternoon. I'm glad you said it was muscle. That made me feel really, leaner and healthier. So I am so excited to be here to share with you not so much my founding story, but the concept of how we go about our day-to-day to see the world. And that's really, really important to me, because as you're getting into the next stage of your business or whatever your career is, I really believe in this concept, which is the power of believing. For some reason, I thought as a kid, I was going to impact the world. And I didn't know what that meant. It was actually super intimidating. So I know it's 3 o'clock. I know it's like the tired time of the day. Usually I'm like absolutely hammering espressos right now. But I'm asking you a little audience participation. It's really easy. If I was to ask you this question, how many of you believe you can change the world? Show of hands. Okay, that's not bad. Now, I hesitate asking you this because it feels like we all say this. Oh, I can change the world. I can do this. I can do that. But you know what? You really can. And I'm here to share with you the way we approach that, some of the things that happened. And for those of you who didn't raise your hand, I think when I ask you at the end, hopefully, this is my challenge today, that you'll change your mind. So I started a design firm in 2000. It was actually my fourth design firm. I give a whole talk about what not to do. The reason why I think we're around is because I decided that I wanted to do things really going back to what that little kid thought was, can I change the world? Can I impact the world in some way? And so our mantra, what we believe in, is to make creative matter. So as a branding firm, we make creative things, right? We help businesses tell their story and connect with their audiences. You know, that's our business speak, right? But I also wanted to have a culture where I took care of and loved my team, that we did work that not only mattered to our clients, but was authentically done and mattered to us, and if possible, impact the world. So one of the ways we do that is we have what's called the Give initiative. And several years ago, in 2006, I took my first trip to Africa, and it completely shifted my life, and I'll get back to that in a second. But that's where this idea came from. I was going to give 20% of my time away. Now, that is not good business practice, by the way. It's not very sustainable, and we had to learn the hard way. So now we give 20% of our time away to organizations trying to make the world a better place, or at a discounted rate. In addition to that, we work with them on how to responsibly plan for services like Rule 29 offers. And how that looks now is we work with LifeWater, which is one of the country's longest or oldest faith-based water organization. We work nationally with Team Red, White, and Blue, which is one of the country's fastest growing veterans organizations. They help re-engage veterans as they come back from deployment to their community. We work with what's called the Positivity Project. What they do is they bring positive thought and practices into our schools. It seems like we could really use that right now, doesn't it? We work with the LGBTQ community in having conversations about their community through art and music. We work locally with inner city Chicago families who have to deal with a lot of violence in their neighborhoods by helping start what's called the Turn Center, which they work with those families to prepare the reality of kind of what's around their communities. And then locally, we work with a gentleman who's literally quitting his job and starting to teach kids in our area how to garden and understand about healthy food, and then food deserts just in our area. So that's kind of some of the stuff we do. But again, that's really not really what I want to get to. I want to get to this. I'm a nerd. I love quotes. How many of you love quotes? Yeah, right? They're great. And so I write them down, and my team hates it because I'll put something up on on Facebook, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, read it. It's pretty amazing." So one of my favorite quotes of all time is a Thoreau quote. It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see. And I really felt I understood what that quote meant. But I just wanted to challenge myself and make sure. Sorry, my fonts aren't really working there that great, so deal with it. That's by the way, that's torment for a designer. I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, that's not how it's supposed to look, but that's okay. You don't know that. So look, to view something for a reason with an intention. I totally understand that, right? But then when I was looking up see, a definition came up that really blew my mind. To see, to notice something you weren't looking for. That's where magic happens, I think. And I really wanted to try to figure out a way that I could capture that in my day-to-day, right? What are the things in my life that make me see something differently? So this is exercise 2 for audience participation. I want you to think about this question. And that is, how do you see? How do you see the world around you? And how does that apply to your day-to-day, whether that's your family, your relationships, or your business? So I'm going to share with you a couple stories that maybe will hopefully unlock some ideas. So first, I want you to think back. Think back to that first time something or someone made you see something differently. I'll share with you mine. This is little Justin. It literally is a bowl cut. My mom used to put a bowl on my head and cut the bangs and said, hey, it's good to go. My mom had me when she was in high school. We were on our own for many, many years. We didn't have a lot. I didn't know that because my mom loved me ferociously. My mom is just one of my heroes. And she really encouraged me to pursue the things that I was really excited about. One of them is drawing. Like I said earlier, I'm a nerd, so I've read a lot of mythology and comic books and all that sort of thing. So I thought I'd share with you this gem. But I really want you to notice the brand brilliance, even at a young age. JA, I mean, look at that logo. Come on. That's pretty great. So my mom eventually got married to my stepdad, and he was an addict and an alcoholic, which isn't great, by the way, to grow up in that scenario. And he moved us out to Arizona, so away from my base. I grew up in Illinois from a lot of my time. And the person that really made me shift is the guy in this picture. So first, this is me in the background. This is Gigi Gillespie. I was so in love with her. She was the best kickballer in class. This guy freaked me out. I mean, look at what is he doing in the picture? I have no clue, right? But the point of this story is Mr. H here. Mr. H was incredible. So I was struggling, right? I hated school. I hated just getting up every day. I didn't realize how bad it was till I got kind of older, went through counseling. But it was bad. And I drew. I kind of got within myself and I drew. And so if you looked at my homework back then, it was like math was, 5s blowing up 10s and then 2s would squirt out. Obviously it doesn't work, right? 5, 10s, 2. Anyways, it was bad. But one day Mr. H walked by my desk and every month we had to do this book report and I dreaded it. You had to read a book, which I loved, but my books, everyone made fun of me about, and then write a report. And so he said, hey, Justin, this week, this month, can you draw your report? And I was like, what? He's like, draw it, and then come back and present it to the class. And I was like, hell yeah, I can draw it. I didn't say that, but I was like, yes. So I went back and I was reading a book about gnomes, dork, right? And I came back, I drew all these pictures about gnomes, and I told everyone about the gnome lifestyle and culture, and it was amazing in my mind, right? But 2 things happened that day that were really powerful. First, I became a designer that day, even though I didn't know that's what it was. And second, someone saw me, and that was amazing. So I'm going to come back to Mr. H here. I'm going to tell you about the next point in my life where I saw something differently. And that was my first trip to Africa. I told you back in 2006, I was working with a nonprofit, and they said, hey, we're not going to take your GIVE initiative, which was free counseling and work, unless you go see the work. And so I'm like, oh, that's an amazing sales pitch. I'm in. So we went to sub-Saharan Africa, primarily Kenya and Ethiopia. And I took one of my best friends who was a photographer. And what we did is we went around the area and just tried to be present and interview and see the people that they were serving. And here are some of the kids that we met in the Kibera slum in Nairobi. And I'll be honest with you, if you've never been in this setting, it's an all-encompassing, full sensory heartbreak. And so here I am thinking, what is it that can I do, right? And I was actually looking at the picture on your left was a scene I was looking at. And I turned, and this little girl had come out. And I was at a clinic, an eye clinic, and she was just given her first pair of glasses. And she did something amazing. And she just was doing this. And I asked my interpreter, I'm like, what is she doing? He's like, oh, it's the first time she's ever seen herself clearly, without restriction. And I was like, oh, I'm in. Whatever I can do to help this happen more, I want to do it. And so the CEO kind of giggled, and I was like, what's he laughing about? And he gave me this binder. And on the way home, I started reading what's in the binder. And it had these crazy statistics that we've all seen, right? Or have, can relate to. 20,000 kids die of preventable diseases, right, under the age of 5. Or 80% of the world's AIDS scenario was in the area that I was in. Or, the 1/3 of the world lives under $2 a day. And then my excitement kind of plummeted. So I thought, what can I do as a creative, right? What can I do with my branding company and make any sort of difference? So then I entered something that you'd never guess, the Gap. I walked in the Gap with my daughter, and I saw this quote on the wall. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And I had seen that before, and for some reason, something clicked for me. And I was just like, wow, I can do something. I can use what I do to make a difference. And so I was trying to figure out what that was. And right around this time, Brian, my friend who I told you that took with me to Africa, had sent me this video. And he goes, hey, I heard you're having a hard time. Do you remember that day we were in Ahrens and a bunch of the local people were saying that why are you working with these kids? They're just, they're street kids. They're not going to amount to anything, I said, yeah, that was really horrible. Why did you just ruin my day? And it reminded me of that. He's like, well, I want you to watch this video and then tell me what you see. And so I say the same to you. So those statistics that I saw went away. And I saw the beautiful kids that you just experienced. I finally saw them. I finally got out of my sort of cocoon of hopelessness. And I thought to myself, hey, I'm a branding firm. We could help them rebrand, tell their story, help them exceed their expectations, do some amazing things. And I sat with my team and I said, how can we do more of this? And we came together with first the Give initiative, but then we also started devising programs that we could do to really make incredible impact. And here we go. So one of the things that I really believe is seeing keeps you open to the unexpected. It was that video that really helped me put the things together, right? And so after that, we helped that organization rebrand, tell their story. They went from a $500,000 organization to over $3 million in just a couple of years. We also helped them start a microfinance program called Conjo, where we use design thinking to develop a microfinance shoe company, where we taught women in the slums on how to make shoes. They can then sell them online in the US, and all that money went back into the system. And what's credible, they devised their own way of teaching each other after we kind of figured out how to do it. And so that was our first big project after that. And then we worked with a school. We were going to go into South Sudan and try to help them educate those who couldn't read on malaria, signs that you were sick, and how to take proper dosage. So we used design thinking and different artifacts to go and test this in the field. So those are just a couple of things that we did. And this really led us to the second thing that I was able to be a part of, which is Wheels for Water. So Life Water was that organization I was telling you about that we helped, rebrand. And when I went there, I was able to see the before, the during, and the after of water programs. How you can take a local community and teach them, shift them from the reality that it's not just safe water, it's proper sanitation, hygiene education. And so we decided that we were going to adopt a community. I was there and realized a couple things. One, Life Water had said for $40 you can change someone's life. That was mind-boggling to me. And the community that we're there to learn about was for 1,000 people, so $40,000. So I said, we're in. We'll raise the money for it. And my wife freaked out because I don't have $40,000 laying around. And so we developed what was called Wheels for Water. We were going to ride our bikes from Boston to Chicago and get each mile sponsored for $40 to raise $40,000. We decided we'd filter our water along the way so we could tell the people the story about how hard it is to get fresh water. And so that's what we did. We got on our bikes. We actually ended up riding 1,207 miles, not that I was counting. And we went around the country and told people about the world water crisis, tried to educate those who were interested, who would give us a moment. We created a bunch of different artifacts to share that story with people, brought in sponsors, created custom jerseys, had these organizations be a part of it, and really tried to use our network to expand out. And in the end, if I had more time, I'd show this video. This is me trying to test our water the day before the ride, and it kept clogging. Not great when you wanted to have water for every day of the ride. So at the end of that ride, we did not raise $40,000. We raised $100,000 and didn't help 1,000 people, but helped over 2,500 people. The next year, we wanted to raise $18,000, and we raised 60. And then last year, we wanted to raise 40, and we raised 70. And this was all from taking a step and trying to make impact. So this year, we are going to try to match what we've done to date. We're going to ride from coast to coast in 10 days. We're going to do a relay. And we're going to try to create a bunch of noise and get people alert to what we're doing, help educate them on the world water crisis, and see what we can do together. So I'll leave you with this one final story. Going back to Mr. H. I was in a group of, sort of a group of guys that we get together and we talk about life, and we kind of, are just there for each other. And I was telling the story about Mr. H, and one of my buddies goes, "Did you ever say thank you to him?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't. No. He's in Tucson, I'm in Illinois. How's that going to work? I don't know, the internet." So it took me a year to do it, to try to reach out to him. And I tell you what, the reason why I didn't, honestly, is I was terrified that he was gone. I wanted to keep that memory of him in my mind, right? So I ended up, make a long story short, I ended up getting him on the phone. You know those moments in life where you smell something, you hear something, you go back to something really special? Man, when I heard his voice, I just felt safe. It was awesome. And I was, "Mr. H, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you if I was in a bad way." And he's like, I knew it, man. There's something about it, I knew it. And I said, "Hey, Mr. H, I just got to tell you, thank you. You saved my life." And he got really quiet. And I could tell he either had a cold or he was crying. And I said, "Mr. H, I'm sorry. Did I say something to offend you?" He was like, "No one ever told me thank you before." So he asked me if I still did art. I said yes. So I sent him a bunch of posters and brochures and reports and books. And he's probably thinking art? This is and then a couple of days later, I collect posters. And so I got this poster on my doorstep. I was so pumped because my wife surprised me with posters. And I opened it. You'll never believe what I found. He kept all of my art all those years. How awesome is that? So if you knuckleheads didn't raise your hand, don't think you can change the world or someone's world, you're wrong. And I also have to say, please say thank you to that person that did this for you, especially if it's a teacher. This is a note on there. It's pretty funny. I must have been a handful because all these little Mr. H, I had zits, I guess, too. I don't know. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. And I got to say thank you to him in person just 2 years ago. So it's been great being here. And, if you want to make impact, honestly, you just have to believe you can. Thanks a lot.